What's going on, guys? So this week we're going to be looking at our Week 13 DraftKings GPP lineup. So last week we had some duds that cost us in our lineups, but we had some good players go off. Biggest one, of course, Taylor Gabriel. Definitely the clear-cut number 2 in Atlanta. Went absolutely crazy. I think he had 2 touchdowns and over 26 points at like 3,500 DraftKings dollars. So really good value there. So this week we're going to jump right into it. I think this week's got a good slate. There's some good potential upside for tournament plays. And let's just jump right into it. So first off, we're going with QB, and we're going with Colin Kaepernick. So Kaepernick's going against Chicago. They're not the best, of course, in pass defense. But the thing that makes Colin Kaepernick so intriguing in a tournament play is the fact that the guy can run. Lately, he's been, matching or beating some of the rushing yards of top-tier running backs in the league right now. If you look at last week, he had 296, so just shy of 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But if you look at his rushing, 113 rushing yards, 32 before that, 55 before that. Show me a quarterback, aside from Russell Wilson in his heyday, that puts up those kind of rushing numbers right now. It's a cherry on top. You get yardage out of him. He's been throwing a ton of touchdowns, but he's also throwing a few interceptions. So he is a volatile quarterback, but with those rushing yards, you just can't beat it. So Colin Kaepernick at 6,100, we're going to lock him in. So going chalk at running back, I think a lot of people are going to be on DJ this week. He's got a good matchup against Washington. I know his thumb injury is not going to be hindering him at all this week, so he's going to play. And at $9,500, I'm just fading him because of the extra savings. $9,500 is a lot of money. He is worth it by all means, so don't steer clear of him completely. But this week, I really like Le'Veon Bell. I like dual threat running backs that are going to get passes as well as rushing attempts. So Le'Veon Bell this week is definitely who we're going to lock in. If you look over the last few weeks combined, he has pretty much for the last 3 weeks combined for almost 200 yards 2 weeks ago, and over 100 yards pretty much every week in combined yards. So Le'Veon Bell is a must-play almost every single week. You just can't go wrong with him. At $9,200, he's expensive, but I think he's good this week against the Giants to put up at least 20, 25 points, which I'm good with. So next, we're going to go with Theo Riddick. So Detroit's going against New Orleans. Everyone knows New Orleans' defense is not good. They're not good against the pass. They're not good against the run. They have had some good games, but that doesn't change the fact that they're just a bad team. They rely heavily on the pass game. Mark Ingram is a joke, if you ask me. The few good games he has throughout 13 weeks just doesn't justify the fact that their run game sucks. And I think Theo Riddick is going to pick apart that defense. Detroit last week, they abandoned Ebron, which cost me in my lineup, as most of you already know. But I think they're going to really utilize Theo Riddick in the play action. They are passing him the ball. 5 receptions last week, 8 the week before, 1 and then 8. So, he's definitely getting receptions. He's not going to be your stud workhorse on the ground necessarily. He is a volatile running back. He may have a bad game where he only gets you 1.5x his value. But he also has the upside if you look back at Week 8, where he got over 27 points, Week 5, 26 points, and in Week 1, 27 points. So that's the ceiling that we're looking for when you're looking for a value play in a position. You want to know what is their ceiling, what is their potential, and his potential is nearly 30 points. Now his floor, if you look in Week 9, actually you pretty much look in Weeks 9 and Week 4, is around 8 to 9 points. So he does have a low floor, but that's a risky play. I'm willing to take this week against New Orleans. I really think Detroit's going to utilize him. Theo Riddick is getting locked in. So we're gonna fade off some of these stud wide receivers this week. The only reason I say that is because I'm not a huge fan of any of the matchups for the most part. Mike Evans this week I think is a good play, but going against San Diego, they got a pretty aggressive secondary. They've been underrated a lot this year, but I think they have the potential to shut down some big stud action there. So I don't think Mike Evans is necessarily worth the pay up. Julio I like, but Kansas City, again, has some really good secondaries that can shut down a wide receiver if they need to. But, of course, Julio is going to eat either way. I mean, they rely so heavily on Julio. But so we're going to fade all these top-tier guys, and I'm actually going to drop down to Julian Edelman against the Rams. The reason I'm doing that is, I mean, as you know, Tom Brady is on fire right now. Edelman is his number one target. They do rely heavy on the pass game right now. They're not utilizing the run game as much, and when they do, it's generally play action. They're passing to the backs. They just like using Tom Brady. He's got a cannon for an arm, and Edelman is a very reliable receiver. 28 targets over the last 2 weeks, 16 receptions, 9 targets before that. I mean, the guy just gets his usage, and at $6,800, I think he's good for 15 to 20 points this week and a touchdown. So Edelman, we're going to lock in. We're going to go with Davante Adams for our next receiver. So Green Bay going against Houston. Houston's defense isn't bad. Their pass rush is decent. But at the end of the day, Davante Adams, he has that big play potential with Jordy Nelson as a huge decoy for them on the offense, and even Randall Cobb as a decoy. Adams just has not been shut down this year. If you look over the last few weeks, I mean, the guy's upside, just like last night, for Week 12, 113 yards and 2 touchdowns, only 6 targets, 5 receptions for that kind of outage. 9 targets 3 weeks ago, 156 yards on 6 receptions. I mean, the guy is just a machine. He gets a ton of targets relative to who else he's going up against, and he just turns them into big, big plays. He always has that potential at a touchdown and triple-digit yardage. So Davante Adams this week, even against Houston defense, I'm big on him this week. So next we're going to go with, where's he at? Here he is. Jamison Crowder. So Jamison Crowder, clearly the number one option in Washington. However, he is shadowed by Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon. I think Jamison Crowder, for some reason, week to week, is low owned. I don't know why people aren't on him yet. I'm fine with that, especially in tournament play. But if you look at his production, he has better consistent numbers than some of these top-tier wide receivers in the $9,000 price range. I mean, week to week, he's putting up a ton of yards. He's putting up a ton of receptions. He's getting touchdowns. Of course, any given week, it could be Deshaun Jackson's week. It could be Pierre Garçon's week. It could be Jordan Reed's week. But at the end of the day, Jamison Crowder is the most consistent wide receiver on that offense. Going against Arizona, they do have a secondary. But if you look at all the teams that they've played so far this year, I mean, Minnesota, he went 4 for 37 and a touchdown for 14 points. I mean, that's over 2x his value. And at that time, it was almost 3x. Going against Cincinnati and their secondary, going against Philly, Baltimore. I mean, the guy puts up double-digit numbers, fantasy point-wise, every single week pretty much except for one. So he's a must-play for me this week. 100% of my lineups will have Jamison Crowder in it. And I think a lot of people will fade a lot of the Washington receivers against that Arizona secondary just because they fear Patrick Peterson and some of those secondary guys. But really, I'm not too worried about it. They've been proven to be shut down in the past. All over it. So we're going to go ahead and do a little stack. It wasn't intentional, but I really like him this week, and that's Vance McDonald. I just think he's really underowned. Nobody's really targeting anyone off the 49ers. Unfortunately, I love my team, but they're just not consistent. Now, Kaepernick's usage is going up. You know, people are getting, they're drawing attention to the fact that he's putting up really phenomenal numbers at around $6,000. But, at the same time, Vance McDonald just hasn't been owned. If you look at some of the value tight ends, Vernon Davis, Lance Kendricks, some of those guys in the $3,000 range, they're not consistently putting up the numbers. If you look at Vance McDonald, he is definitely the clear-cut, top 2, top 3 target for, Colin Kaepernick week to week. And I really suspect that he's good for a touchdown this week against Chicago. Chicago's secondary isn't that great. They're not amazing against tight ends. And Vance McDonald's proving that if you throw it his way, he's going to catch it. He's averaging over 50% catch rate. And, when you get the targets that you need and you're catching 50% of them, it's a matter of time before those things end up in the end zone. So Vance McDonald is my tight end this week. In our flex position, we're going to run with Taylor Gabriel. So like I said last week, and I've been riding with him week to week. You've probably seen him in a lot of my lineups if you've been following me for a while on YouTube. But I've been putting Taylor Gabriel in my lineups, and he's been paying off. His ownership has been in the single digits week to week to week. For some reason, the numbers he's putting out, he's only jumped up $1,000 over 5 weeks. Not sure why, considering the fact that he has 4 touchdowns over 5 weeks. Phenomenal receiver, clearly the number 2 to Julio Jones. I feel like Kansas City, if they have any shot at slowing down Atlanta, they're going to have to shut down Julio. That's going to free up space for Taylor Gabriel to go off. And I just think between Gabriel and Sanu, I think both those guys are going to do really good this week, but Gabriel is definitely the clear-cut number 2 over there. So we're going to lock him in. And then we're going to go with the Miami Dolphins against Baltimore. So Miami's been playing really good defense. Obviously, they have a lot of big guys on that D-line. They can get sacks. They can, put a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks. Baltimore is not the best when it comes to QB. Yes, they do have Steve Smith. They do have Mike Wallace. But I really suspect Dolphins are going to put a lot of pressure, keep that quarterback situation under duress. And I just don't think they're going to be able to make a lot of big plays this week. So we're going to lock in Miami Dolphins. So running back through this, we've got Kaepernick stacked with Vance McDonald. We got Le'Veon Bell and Theo Riddick. We got Julian Edelman, Devontae Adams, Jamison Crowder, Taylor Gabriel, and Miami Dolphins as our D. So that's our lineup this week. Go ahead and feel free to lock it in. If you like my videos, please comment, subscribe, and I will definitely be posting a video every single week. It seems like I'm getting more attention around running additional slates, so I may also run a primetime slate or a Monday-Thursday slate lineup as well, just to add a little bit more to the lineup. So appreciate your guys' support. Once again, comment, subscribe, smash that like button. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Good luck. Let's make some money this week.